Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, we have another poll coming out, and it is even worse, if that is possible, for the SNP. We did one at the beginning of the week that was pretty bad, but this one is just appallingly bad. It's absolute Armageddon. It is the end of the SNP. If this holds true, Humza Yousaf will go immediately. He has to. There will be nothing left of the party. It will be eviscerated. And it's wonderful to read. We'll take a look at it. But it is an absolute meltdown for the party. People are going elsewhere. People are finally wising up. And they're seeing that it is a party of incompetence and morons, but also filled with loathing, racism and hate, and is quite incapable of delivering anything it tries to do because it's just unending obsession with independence, which is just totally unachievable in its present form. Let's take a look at this and then just roll in mirth and laugh at the travails of Humza Yousaf. Here goes. So, Armageddon for Humza Yousaf's SNP, as pollster predicts an almost total Nat wipeout at Westminster. And you can't help but laugh. You really can't. This is music to our ears, isn't it? This is absolute popcorn. I tell you what, come the next election, probably October next year, I'll be sitting up. Of course, I'll be watching for everything, because you do, getting the results as they come in. But watching the SNP results is going to be absolute joy. I'm going to have a little drink every time an SNP loses a seat, and I absolutely think I'll be polluted. Anyway, the hapless First Minister is set for a tough general election. Hey, we've all been saying that for a while, but this, trust me, is big. Pollsters predicting that the Nationalists could plunge to pre-independence referendum levels of MPs. Now, we know how dependent they are on this money from Westminster to keep the party running. So where they're going to replace this money from, who knows? This will be the final end because they just won't have the funding to keep going. It's stunning news. Anyway, Humza Yousaf could be facing a near wipeout at the general election, as one eminent pollster predicted the SNP could collapse to just 6 MPs, possibly even fewer. A loss of that size would almost certainly lead to a quick resignation for the First Minister, who's seen his party tank in the polls since the start of the year. Basically, the moment he became leader, it went down the plug hole. It was circling the drain for a while anyway, but since he became leader, he has gone down the shit pipe and it is finished. Absolutely finished. Everyone's leaving the party. They can't get funding. Nobody wants to support them. All the old businesses that used to go in there, corporate sponsorship, that's all drying up. Nobody wants to tie themselves to a potential legal case. So everything's tanking. The only money they get that they rely on is the money from Westminster. And bada bing, bada bong, that's going to disappear pretty damn quick. The latest survey from the Scottish Election Study, the SES, gave Labour a sizable lead over the Nationalists by 38% to 32%, with undecided voters removed. This is the first time Anna Sawal's party have been top in a general election poll in almost a decade. One of the biggest issues with the SNP vote is it is too condensed within some areas, meaning that Labour can gain seats in the previous strongholds like Glasgow and the Central Belt. And Sir John Curtis believes this could lead to a damaging election for Mr Yousaf. Already in Rutherglen and Hamilton West, and we covered this to death, but the result there was an astonishing result. Even Curtis said if Labour got 10%, they'd be very, very happy. And they got 20% swing. Labour were like off the charts, weren't they? They were grinning ear to ear. Michael Shanks trounced Katie Loudon in that result to become Scotland's newest MP. Sir John, not Sir Curtis. Honestly, journalism. Sir John Curtis believes that a similar swing nationwide, which polling indicates could happen, would see them win 42 seats. That's a huge boost for Sir Keir Starmer's hopes of becoming First Minister. The SNP's tally would collapse from 48 to 6, which is the same total it had before the 2014 independence referendum, when their popular support surged. It would mean that they are no longer the third biggest party at Westminster. They could even be relegated to 5th. So you'd have Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, first three. Who's the fourth? Oh, Plaid Cymru, perhaps. Yeah, I think they're the only significant others, aren't they? Even so, can you imagine that? The SNP behind Plaid Cymru. Unbelievable. Anyway, another politics expert, Professor Robert Ford, said the poll was damning reading for the Nats, as dozens of their seats would be at risk. You couldn't, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a hell of a night. It's going to be one hell of a night watching all those sad little faces, looking at their little yellow rosettes, ripping them off, thrown to the floor, walking out knowing that they're finished. Their days as being a politician is over. He said, this is just one poll, but this starts getting into the SNP wipeout territory if sustained. Yeah, but it isn't just one poll. The writing's been there. The momentum is down for the SNP and up for Labour. And all you have to do is look at all the series of polls, and continually Labour rising, the SNP falling. And if this poll is anything like close to accurate, it's stunning. This would be roughly a 16-point SNP to Labour swing. Any SNP MP with a Labour over majority of under 35 to 40% would be vulnerable, which is a lot of the seats. There are only 7 SNP seats where the SNP majority over Labour is more than 40 points, and only one where it's over 45. He said, but some of these could fall to second place Conservatives or Lib Dems if the SNP vote plunges. Practically all seats in Scotland could be in play if Labour polls like this. So basically, Labour are going to mop up the vast majority of SNP seats. But if it's done because the SNP vote is falling, then the Tories are likely to snatch 2 or 3 as well. And that could put the SNP into sort of fewer than 6. And that, of course, would be disastrous. Can you imagine more Tories than SNP in Scotland? It's not impossible. Obviously, Labour would be far and away the big winners. But SNP third behind the Tories? It's astonishing but possible. Anyway, the Scottish Election Study surveyed 1,244 voters north of the border in late October for their Scottish Opinion Monitor after the results of the Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election. And the huge decline in the SNP voters was attributed to independent supporters deserting them, with only 53% of yes voters voting for the SNP. This is a huge decline from the recent election when at least 80% voted for the SNP. We covered that in the previous one where they were talking about the SNP's own supporters. This is stunning. They could be left with 6 after Labour have finished with them, and possibly fewer if the Tories can snatch 1 or 2 as well. His days are numbered. He knows it. He's done. He's got nowhere else to go. What's he going to do? He's an ex-party leader. He'll never lead the party again. He'll never be trusted with the position again because he's a failure, a serial failure. And it is just absolutely stunning result. Anyway, we're going to round off there and we're going to come up. Now, of course, this is only for the Westminster vote. You've still got 2.5 years or so, over 2 years, for the Holyrood vote. And that's fine. We can get that. We can deal with that. But the point is that the SNP might not even make it to the end of the Holyrood vote. If they lose all those seats in Westminster, and don't forget Westminster pays a huge amount of money into the party, and they've got to pay all that upkeep. They've got all those permanent staff, they've got all those buildings, all those cars, all those camper vans that have to keep running. They've got all these expenses. And if they're not getting that Westminster money, how the hell are they going to maintain that? They can't. They literally can't. They're going to have to let people go. They're going to have to shut offices. They're going to have to close down a lot of things. And they have a falling membership. So they can't really go to the members and say, we need to double your money or this, that and the other. And the corporate sponsors are still staying away. The SNP could be financially bankrupted within days of the next general election. I have never looked forward to a general election with more excitement than the next one coming. It's going to be so much fun. And then, of course, then he'll go, yes. It's just delicious, isn't it? It's absolutely delicious. Anyway, I shall run off. What a wonderful video. Now, I've literally just seen something come up. I'm going to change the order of my videos. And you have to watch the next video. It's going to leave you flabbergasted. Speak soon.